Support for the CivicSciTV network comes from listeners and viewers like you, and organizations such as the Rita Allen Foundation, which invests in transformative ideas in their earliest stages to leverage their growth and promote breakthrough solutions to significant problems. Go to ritaallen.org to learn more.
Mapping the global landscape of civic science by dissecting new insights from researchers, practitioners, and leaders in academia, government, for-profit, and nonprofit organizations. This is Questions of the Day with Fanuel Muindi.
All right, welcome back to Questions of the Day. I'm your host, Fanuel Muindi. Now, on my show, what I try to do is map the civic science, civic nature of science. And what I do with that is I talk to various stakeholders, scholars, and practitioners who are on the ground doing the hard work. And so today, I'm so thankful to be joined by Robert Fernandez. He is the co-founder and executive director of Científico Latino that is based in New York. Robert, welcome to the program.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So let's just get started. You have an interesting background that I would like our viewers to learn more about. Could you tell us very briefly about your journey all the way from Lima, Peru to the US?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was born in Lima, Peru. My parents immigrated to the US when I was 4. I pretty much grew up as an undocumented immigrant for 20 years, but I didn't really find out until I was applying to colleges during my senior year of high school. And pretty much during my senior year of high school, all of the students were getting their acceptances to colleges. And my family wasn't familiar with the U.S. education system, so I didn't know there was a college application deadline, let alone you had to take the SATs. So I kind of missed that whole boat. But one day, a community college representative stopped by, and he passed out these forms. And I remember, oh, great, this is my chance to go to college. And then I see something that asks for Social Security number. So I was like, oh, I'm not sure what that is. So I ended up calling my mom. I was like, Ma, ¿cuál es mi social? What is my Social Security number? And she was like, tú no tienes uno, hijo. Like, you don't have one. And that's kind of how I found out I was undocumented. Like, it really sank in then. But I was like, I'm just leave it blank. So, I got into community college. I actually started pretty much the May of my last semester in high school. So I was going to high school, taking night classes, community college, just to get a head start. So I went to Union County College in New Jersey, majored in business administration, transferred to York College, City University of New York in Jamaica, Queens, which I really loved, and ended up doing a PhD at Yale in molecular biophysics and biochemistry.
Wow. Okay, we just breezed through all these experiences. And in fact, in our network, we have a special program called Changemakers, where we go into depth about these experiences, the twists and turns in your journey. And sadly, we don't have enough time to go into depth about that today, because we're going to use that as a launching point to talk about Científico Latino. So, Robert, could you tell us what was the driving questions that you and others in those early stages that led you to start this organization?
Oh, that's a great question. So when we started Científico Latino, a lot of it was pretty much like my first year of grad school at Yale. So when I was at Yale, I was the only Latino in the entire program. And maybe I was like one of 3 out of the entire department. So, starting off, coming from a biotechnology major at York to a biophysics and biochemistry PhD program was very difficult. There was the only one who looked like me. I felt that I couldn't keep up with my peers. I also didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want to be like, oh, he's asking for help because he's Latino. So all of these things I had to learn how to navigate, and not well, unfortunately. So pretty much my first semester of grad school, I got all C's and an F. I was on academic probation. I almost got kicked out of the program, but I talked to my director of graduate studies, and I told him, look, this is what I'm going through. This is how I'm going to overcome it. And I want to stay in the program, because he gave me the option. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? So I decided to do my second semester much different. So I got all B's my second semester, and my third semester, I got all A's and 1 B. and I ended up passing my qualifying exams and even getting a national fellowship, the Polynesian Fellowship for New Americans, while under academic probation. But my experience kind of taught me that it's really important to have mentors to help you navigate difficult years during grad school, and not everyone's lucky enough to have a good mentor. And then I also think about my time at your college, that I had a community of mentors pushing me to succeed. So I spent a couple of my time at years at Yale, pretty much being involved in starting mentorship programs, helping the undergraduate student population at Yale for the STARS program that helps low-income and first-generation students do paid research the last 2 years of college and have done with professional development. So, as I was helping these students by leading workshop series or teaching them how to present their research, or help them with like grad school applications or postbac program applications, I kind of thought to myself, like, even at Yale, some of these students don't know what a PhD is or how to prepare for one. And if this is a problem at Yale, this has to be a problem widespread. So around that time, I wanted to do something very impactful. So I think this was around 2016. And at first I was like, I was unsure of like, I knew I wanted to make a difference in terms of the accessibility of science resources, but I was unsure of like what the starting point was. So at first I had an idea, okay, let me create a website or database of resources of the sciences. So I made up a list of like scholarships and fellowships at the undergraduate and the graduate level. I reached out to a couple colleagues, some from the PD Soros community and some other friends that I made throughout my academic journey. One of them reached out, Olivia Goldman, who at the time, she finished, Olivia Goldman, who did her PhD at Rockefeller University, and I think currently is a postdoctoral scientist at UC Berkeley. But in short, she reached out of wanting to contribute. So together we kind of expanded our database. So we started in 2017, which was just like a website of scholarships, fellowships, summer research programs, postbac programs. We started doing blog series of like having different scientists talk about different experiences in the sciences, whether it's sharing information about their STEM career or applying for like fellowships or doing a postbac program, working as a lab technician. Or to like the human side of aspect of science, of like navigating science as a underrepresented student. So we kind of did this for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. Towards the end of 2019, I was like, okay, I'm getting old. I have to graduate my PhD. So we were kind of like slowing down until a eager first-year grad student who just received her PhD now. A couple months ago, Daisy Duan from Yale as well, from the molecular biophysics and biochemistry PhD program I was in. She reached out about wanting to contribute further, but at the time I was like trying to graduate, but I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. So we kind of like talked about what resources do we have, what's missing, what's in need. And I remember to the time when I was helping my former Yale mentees navigate the grad school applications. And I was like, that's something we all have experience with, applying to grad school. So the three of us, Olivia Goldman, Daisy Duan, and me, decided let's do a mentorship program for students from low-income first generation and historically marginalized backgrounds, have them navigate grad school application in the sciences. So at first, 2019 pilot year, it was an idea. We recruited mentors from academic Twitter, which I was very surprised that worked. And then the students, we started reaching out to like different universities, whether surf program directors, prep program directors, just department chairs, to spread word of our program. And our pilot year, I think we had over 100 to 200 students and mentors who signed up. And throughout the years, we definitely improved our programming to not only include like, here's a mentor in your scientific field that can guide you with your grad school application, but a curriculum of webinars on applying to grad school, fee waivers, where universities have partnered with us to give students part of our program application fee waivers. This year, courtesy of the Science Foundation, that are funding our GSMI 2024 program, we have a small scholarship fund as well to cover 2 application costs per students, mock interviews to help the students with the interview process. and generally just a community of scientists, whether it's undergraduates, postdocs, or grad students who are involved in our programming that they can network with as well.
Wow, wow, that is a lot of work in sum there, what you just described. To be clear, you're focusing on undergraduates, is that right?
So anyone applying to grad school in the sciences, so whether it's undergrad, postdoc, lab technicians, and our cohort is roughly 100 students every year.
100 students every year. So Robert, what have you learned from the students? What have they been telling you about their experiences through Científico Latino?
Yeah. So in terms of what we've learned, pretty much from our pilot year, a lot of what we didn't know is like the number of obstacles that international students and undocumented students have when applying to grad school. International students, it's a little bit more obvious in the sense that different universities have limited PhD spots available, but they even have less spots available for international students. Maybe public universities may only accept 1 or 2 per program, but maybe they don't mention this publicly available on their website, while private universities typically tend to accept more private international students because they have private funding. In addition to like the visa cost and other things that you need to do in order to make sure that you can work and study in the US as an international student. For undocumented students, and those are without DACA, I would say it's much harder for them to get into grad school, just because when they're accepted to a PhD program, normally a PhD program, the way you get funding is from either a grant or a grant from the university or from the program or from the PI. And undocumented students don't have Social Security numbers, and they're unable to get paid from this grant funding. So they're reliant on private funding. So that means that undocumented students have to do a lot of legwork in the sense of like they have to email the program chair or the program department coordinator and ask them, do you accept undocumented students? Do you provide financial assistance for documented students? And what type of financial assistance do you provide? Because some PhD programs, unfortunately, they accept them, but they don't fund them. Or they have to come up with their own funding, or they even ask them to take out loans, which is ridiculous, for like a PhD for like 5 to 7 years. So I would say it's definitely been something that we're trying to figure out how to better help our students, but just by being them aware of all of these different obstacles that they have to tackle. But beyond that, I would say we kind of learned that like some additions that we did for our programming is some students need more preparation in terms of how to tackle personal statements, just because some of these students, maybe the first time they're encountering how to write a personal statement for grad school applications. And every university has different models and different styles of what questions they ask in a grad school application. So there's not like one formula that fits every single question for an application. So we're always trying to gauge how can we improve, what further curriculum we can add. We were very heavy in the biosciences when we started off. We're trying to make more content for like physics and mathematics and clinical psychology, which we're seeing more students in our program from. And I would say those are probably just some of the key takeaways of what we've learned. But I will say the scholarship courtesy of the Science Foundation that we started for GSMI 2023 and this year 2024, it was unexpected how useful that would be, because yes, we do have fee waiver partners, but some fee waiver partners, they're not for international students, or they're not for undocumented students, or they're limited based on GPA, or they can only accept a small pool. But us covering their application costs for the students who aren't eligible for fee waivers really made a difference. And I remember we even had some like emergency funds. So if any scholarship funds left over, students use it for test scores, for GRE application costs. There were some students who couldn't even afford clothing for their interviews. And I think that's something that really needs to be supported more, just because we assume that everyone should have the funding to go to prepare for grad school applications, and really it's not. Now, a lot of these students are working for a time or come from low income backgrounds, and they necessarily can't afford an entire interview attire or roughly $1,000 in application fees.
So you are technically, you and your team are working with them, right, through the entire pipeline, right, from thinking through the application process and all the way through, I mean, interviews and beyond, right? Just can you give us a take a little bit on what happens for a given student?
Yeah, so technically our program officially starts August 15 of this year, and up until the graduate application cycle. So it most applications are due December 15, and we do have we still have some optional curriculum that some students can access to depending on their fields. So in the biological sciences, there's an interview component, so students can sign up for mock interviews in January. We still have webinars like what if you don't get into grad school, how to strengthen your application for next year. But pretty much we touch base with our students April 15, where we find out what was the status of their application process. Did they get in anywhere? Did they get any interviews, any offers, any rejections? What are their plans afterwards? So yeah, our program is from pretty much, it's technically from August 15 to April 15, but a lot of the spring curriculum is dependent on their scientific field.
I see. And given our focus here, thinking about the civic nature of science, I'm curious about these personal statements that you're helping them write, especially for the populations that you are dealing with. Are you able to share a kind of high level, especially with respect to science communication, public engagement, activities that these students may be involved in, and how they are articulating these in their personal statements in general, of course?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of these students, at least from the previous cohorts, they do have, a lot of these students do have experience in research, whether it's quite variable per student. It could be anywhere from, the students' research experience can vary from 1 year to 4 years of research experience. They also have STEM outreach experience. Some of these students may have limited research experience because they're working full-time due to financial and familiar responsibilities. So our applicant pool varies quite a lot, from students who are like very well prepared to grad school, from students who they may need maybe another year or two of research experience in order to be a competitive candidate, to maybe some students who have very, very limited research experience, nothing based on their capabilities, but maybe because of the school that they're going to, there's no research opportunities offered there. And that puts them at a disadvantage, unfortunately, especially because some PhD programs require years of research experience in order to be a compelling candidate. But regardless, a lot of these students beyond research experience have been involved in different leadership activities, STEM outreach clubs. And I want to say, in terms of the personal statement, something that I do notice that we're really trying to fix is that some of the students tend to diminish their accomplishments. So in the statements, they write stuff like, if I was accepted, or I think I am a good candidate. So they don't really use like powerful wording in their statements that some students from more privileged backgrounds may use. So we've been trying to make sure that the mentors are aware, that try to make sure that their personal statements are well written. That's also what we have, these personal statement reviewers. So what we did last year is we have some scientists who are personal statement reviewers who can give you additional feedback beyond your assigned mentor. That way they have more rounds of revisions, just because I would say some of these students in their initial drafts, unfortunately, they're really downplaying their accomplishments or their motivation. And again, it's the first time they're encountering these statements, so it's very difficult to know what is the formula that universities are looking for. So I personally like adding more tools in the GSMI program to expand and increase their chances of writing stronger personal statements. We even started a personal statement boot camp last year, where we had a 3-day webinar series where we went over the introduction, the body, your research experience, and the conclusion. Why that university? Why those faculties? What do you want to do afterwards? And we showed them examples of successful personal statements from students who got in, so they know what type of wording to use and what are some common mistakes. And we even had towards our end, like a live breakout session where the students would come with their personal statements prepared. We would give them feedback right there. So they, and also their peers as well, would give them feedback as well. So we will try to do this for 4 students per breakout session. That way they get live feedback, like, oh, I perspective, not just from your peers, but also from different scientific disciplines. Like, you think you might have a really good statement if you're in the biology field, but if someone in the mathematics field or astronomy or physics field, they should be able to understand what type of work you're doing as well.
Yeah, because even a big piece of writing the personal statement is essentially science communication, right? You're communicating your science to a diverse audience, right? These reviewers might be reading this application, might not be in your field also, right?
Exactly.
So there's that activity, which I'm assuming, given what you were saying, right? These boot camps you're creating, you have this knowledge base, right, about these statements and other experiences that you have, and then you're trying to impart that onto the students. Robert, what has been the biggest challenge in doing this work so far?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the biggest challenge in doing this work. So our GSMI program right now, we do have, we pretty much started off as a volunteer-based organization where we were all the grad students or postdocs volunteering our time working on this. And when we were a volunteer-based organization, we roughly had anywhere from 20 to 30 students, scientists, working on different aspects of this programming. And a lot of improvement came of how many individuals are needed to effectively run this program. So right now, we successfully are thinking with 100 students. We roughly have a program director part-time, and I'm helping additionally lead this program. But we also have different contractors who are helping on different aspects, whether it's reviewing fellowship statements, reviewing personal statements, or handling our social media, or handling our webinar series. It's still the number of people that are involved in this it's quite a lot. It's roughly like at least 20 people, and I want to say at some point I definitely want to hire some full-time employees in the future, but it's definitely it's a difficult process to transition from a volunteer-based organization to now where I'm doing this full-time, but we have some contractors helping us run this, to transitioning to like what would an employee model for Científico Latino look like, and can it be useful to help run this program? Just because I don't think one program director alone is enough to run this program. We definitely need a lot of contractors, because the number of students that we've looked over their number of scientists that helped us look over applications, interview all 100 scholars, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So is the demand, has the demand been growing, and to the point where now, of course, you want to expand and have more on the supply side also, right? Have more scientists, right, to do the work you just described. So is the demand there?
This is a good question. So I would say, in terms of the students who are applying to grad school, the demand is definitely there. So we've been doing this since 2019. The most applications that we've ever got was over 600 applications. And from 2019 to 2021, we would accept everybody. And there were some lessons learned in accepting everyone who signed up. Managing a cohort of 200 and 300 is very different from managing a cohort of 100. Now it's a little bit, we're trying to see with our budget how realistic we can run our GSMI program with the number of contractors available. But I would say I do want to scale in the future, just because if we increase the number of our cohort sizes, we can help more people. But I also understand the financial responsibilities of increasing our cohort size as well. The demand is the demand there for the mentors who sign up? That's a good question. I would say uh, around 2020, when we had a lot of the different Black Lives Matters protest, a lot of scientists wanted to be involved with pretty much helping different communities who are from marginalized backgrounds. So we definitely had maybe over like 600 signups to be mentors. This year, we've barely had 200 signups to be mentors. So I think we need to, how do you say, adjust our strategies of how we're finding students and mentors for our programming. So for me, something that I really want to do in the future is I want to do college campus visits, and I want to start going to different colleges, talking about our programming, recruiting scientists to be mentors, recruiting students for our programming, and even if they're not selected for our program, at least giving workshops at these different universities to pretty much tell them this is how you apply to grad school, this is how you can prepare in advance, so students are aware of this knowledge earlier on.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking in terms of the landscape, right? Científico Latino is not the only organization doing this, potentially. Could you tell us about that ecosystem and how Científico Latino is situated? For example, you mentioned finding students, right? Are students, there are other organizations that are doing something similar, and students have to pick and choose, right? What makes them come to you, right, versus another organization?
That's a great question. So we technically started our GSMI mentorship program in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And around 2019, there was another organization called Project Short that is a nonprofit that does grad school and med school application assistance. And they've been running their programming as long as we have. And they do a lot of great work, pretty much because we can only accept a cohort of 100 students. We always recommend our students to go to Project Short if they're not selected for our programming. I would say what does our organization do different? I can only speak about our work, and I would say how we tailor our programming every year to better increase the information and the resources that students can access. So 2019, it was just here's a mentor and here's a webinar. And then 2020, here's mock interviews. Here's here's fee waiver partners. 2021, a lot more fee waiver partners, more curriculum on applying to grad school. And then 2022, unfortunately, we took a break because back then, from 2019 to 2021, this program was funded from my salary, whether it's grad student or postdoc salary. So like 2023, we came back strong with like, okay, fellowship reviews, personal statement bootcamp, small scholarship fund. We increased our total fee waiver partners to 50, personal statement bootcamp. So we're always taking what the students put in their closing surveys as considerations of how can we improve. And something that we've heard is you guys are too focused on the biosciences, which is true because the majority of our applicants who join our program are in the biosciences, but we've been working on doing more faculty panel sessions with in the non-biosciences. And that's something that I definitely want to improve on. But I would say something else that I really want to do in terms of like reaching the number of students who need it. So far, we were able to help, since the program started, we've helped around 790 students in our program. 524 of them matriculated to PhD or master's programs. And from those 524, I would say roughly 290 came from minority serving institutions, showing that we are reaching students from schools that serve underrepresented students. And personally, we definitely want to continue expanding our reach there, just because we want to make sure that we're helping the students who really need it the most.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing those numbers as well. And one of the things I always love in doing this is that we get to hear things that may not be on the websites, right, or even published papers. So really appreciate you. I wish we can just keep talking, Robert. And as we talked offline earlier, this is just the first of hopefully many conversations as we continue to learn about Científico Latino and you and your organization's work. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk to potential scientists who may be interested about helping out, right? Because our audience are scientists and other practitioners who are doing civic science, science engagement, and so forth. But what would you tell them about Científico Latino and why they should perhaps check you guys out?
Yeah. So well, I guess one of the biggest misconceptions about Científico Latino is that we're only helping Latino scientists, and that's not true. We're helping students from different underrepresented backgrounds, whether it's ethnicity, immigration status, disability, and sexual orientation, gender, first generation, low income. So we try to be inclusive as possible for our programming, and it's not just geared towards Latino students. So I would say that's kind of like one misconception. The other things in terms of what they should know in terms of our programming is that we have different aspects of programs. So we've mainly talked about our GSMI mentorship program, which is helping students get into grad school in the sciences. We have a separate program called GSEC, which could be another conversation, is let's mentor students their first year of grad school to make sure that they are in grad school by the end of that first year. Just because I almost dropped out of grad school my first year. So we want to make sure that students are able to navigate that important process as well. And something we want to do in the future is helping with career advancement after grad school, whether it's in industry, academia, or in consulting. And we actually have a pilot consulting mentorship program that we've ran for the last 2 years where we help grad students apply to consulting jobs. So we are definitely targeting different areas from recruitment, retention, and career advancement. And I would say right now we're always looking for assistance, whether it's as simple as sharing your personal statement or your fellowship statement, to spreading word of our programming, contracting us for professional development workshops in the sciences, one applying to grad school summer programs, or even as simple as a donation that can help fund our operating costs.
Okay, so 30 seconds, Robert. 5 years from now, where is Científico Latino?
Yeah, 5 years from now, Científico Latino is going to have mentorship programs at different universities, or we're going to help different universities help their undergraduate students get accepted and navigate grad school applications in the sciences. Hopefully in 5 years, we have at least 5 to 10 universities that we're partnering with.
Well, we've just been talking with Robert Fernandez, the executive director of Científico Latino. Robert, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.